Hey guys, I wanted to do a post and a call on helping kids learn to take responsibility for themselves. So going on from the last post, which was about how kids sometimes blame other people or other things that are happening, I wanted to look at now, how do we teach them the skills to actually be responsible for themselves? So let's just jump into that. And I've got 12 different ways we can do it. So we'll run through those. And of course, whenever you have questions, you can pop those into the Facebook group and I can answer them in there. Or if you just like to comment, of course, you can do that in there as well. All right, let's get rid of my head. Here we go. Okay, taking responsibility. 10 things, that can help build responsible kids. Okay, so teaching responsibility is a lifelong challenge, but it's definitely worthwhile. And ideally, you want to start when they're toddlers because then it reduces that shock to the kid's system and it sets the early expectations. When you're starting with older children, you're going to need to be really consistent, and it's likely going to take a little bit longer and maybe be a little bit harder to get an older child to take responsibility. So you really need to be strong and just stay consistent with your actions and your expectations. Okay, the good news, of course, is that it helps them become solutions-based and take responsibility for their lives and relationships. So 10 things that we can do to help build responsible kids. You want to keep in mind that it takes time, it takes patience. Like anything with children, you really need time and patience, but that consistency and perseverance will definitely be beneficial in the end. And as you're going through, it becomes easier for you, easier for the children, easier for everybody in the family, or at school, easier for you, easier for the kids, easier for everyone at school. All right, so the first thing you want to do is start early. So obviously teachers don't have that option, they get the kids at a certain age, but for parents, if you're starting with a toddler, you're going to have a better chance of building on that as they age than if you start with a teenager and they're not used to it. The last thing we want is a teenager that doesn't know how to make their own bed or make a sandwich or do anything without you. And even worse still is when they get to 25 and they don't know how to do their own laundry and things like that. So it's really easy to start early. It can start with simple things like putting things away or tidying up, packing and unpacking. Our baby, she's 2.5 now, but since she could walk at about 18 months, it was her job to take her plate to the sink. She's now tall enough she can put it into the sink. She does the drying up. So one of the other kids does the washing, but she can dry the plastic dishes, so she does those. So there's nothing that at that age that they can't do. If they make a mess, yes, you will need to help them initially, but they can start tidying up as well, putting things away. They know what that is. If they're going to daycare, they definitely know what that is. Number 2, getting them to help and do chores. So as I said, from the time she was walking, she was starting to help, and that's been the same with both the younger children and since the older children, since I've been on the scene. So starting small, and as they show mastery, then we want to add on. So as I said, when she first started, we used to make her put her plate next to the sink. Now she's a bit taller, she can push it into the sink. And then now she's gotten the hang of that and she does it naturally. I don't have to ask her or remind her to do it. Okay, well, we're going to move on to doing some drying of the dishes. So teaching her to do the drying and stuff as well. As they get older, the expectations will increase as well. So things they can look at are the dishes, the gardening, clothes washing, sorting clothes, folding clothes, all that sort of thing, cleaning the house. We all see those photos with our toddlers running around after us, vacuuming or dusting, those sorts of things. They can help with that sort of stuff. Making meals as they get older, babysitting, that sort of thing. Kids actually really love helping, and it helps them to feel valued. So it's important for us to give them those jobs so that they can feel valued in the family and in the household or in the classroom. Okay, role modeling responsibility. Finish what started, and just going back to that, in the classroom, teachers usually will have jobs. So that could be getting lunch orders, packing away sports equipment, being responsible for specific things, handing out books, those sorts of things in the classroom. Role modeling responsibility. I talk a lot about role modeling. It's the biggest thing, I would say, for any child, any teen, any adolescent, any tween, any toddler, anything. So An important thing for this is making sure you finish what you start. And by role modeling finishing what you start, then it's going to set the expectation for them that they can't just give up on things. They need to actually persevere through to the end as well. So seeing a task through to completion is a really important responsibility milestone, and it creates that sense of worth and pride. When they finish something, even if it's taken, whether it's taken 5 minutes to do, or it's taken 5 days for them to do, or it's been something they've been working on for months and months, that sense of worth and pride is really important. And it's a big milestone to be able to get to that point of completion. And we need to help them to get there. And one way to do that is to model it. And another thing is to comment on, how much effort they put in and how proud you are that they put the effort in and they kept working at it even when it didn't look like it was working initially. And I also use a lot of we statements. So kids will get frustrated on something that takes a bit of time. So I would use a we statement in that, not you. Have you done your homework? Have you done this? Have you finished your project? What do we need to do next? What's the next thing we need to do? And I do a lot of we stuff. And then as they get better at taking responsibility and completing, then I move into the you side of things. Monkey see, monkey do. So habits get built, and the responsibility and the completion will happen as long as they're seeing you do it. Praise efforts and improvements. So we want to make sure we're praising kids' actions, not them as a person. That's, you're a good boy, you're a good girl. It's stuff that we all say all the time, but just be mindful of the fact that you're a naughty boy, you're a naughty girl. That's putting the expectation back on them. Then, I'm naughty, I might as well be naughty. And I used to do a lot of this with the kids that I taught. They had a lot of negative expectations on them based on them being labelled something like that. So the action that they're doing might be naughty, so we want to make sure that we're praising or we're commenting on the action. So our 7-year-old is struggling to get to class on time. He moves between each class period. They have to move around, and he was running late to a lot of them. So we've put a strategy in place now to help him get there, and it's a little bit of a competitive thing for him. But he's coming home and he's getting better at it and better at it. And I don't say, you're a good boy, you're getting to class on time. I make sure I comment, I'm glad that you're putting the effort in to get there faster and faster. And it's really paying off. Now you're coming, you're getting to class first. It's really good that you put the effort in, and it's really important that we stay consistent. Let's see if we can do it again tomorrow. Again, there's the we statements. And also commenting on his effort. He's in control of his effort. So that's why we want to make sure that we comment on their action, not on them as a person. If you're labeling someone, that's something they don't feel like they can change. Whereas if it's an action that they're doing, their effort, then it's something they can change and they can work on. Okay, great work persevering. Well done putting the hard work into. Wow, last time you got this time you got this. All this practice and training is paying off, all those sorts of things. So you've got to expect failure and imperfection. Yesterday he came home and he'd forgotten his bag, so he was last to class. I said, that's okay. It happens to all of us. Sometimes things happen where we're aiming for something and it doesn't quite work out. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow you pick it up and you try again, or you give it another go. So persisting through will lead to growth and success. So number 5, watching expectations. Kids are learning, so things aren't going to be perfect, and that's okay. So as an adult, we need to monitor our expectation and acknowledge a job well done. So if our kids make their beds, the 2-year-old's bed making skills are not as good as the 7-year-old's bed making skills, which aren't as good as the 11-year-old's bed making skills. And hers are probably better than the 13-year-old's bed making skills. But, you've got to expect different things at different levels, and all of them are different to how I would make the bed. So one thing I do is make sure that I compliment, well done, you've done a good job with the bed, and I'll leave it. When I'm making my bed, I'll get them to come in and we'll talk about how we can do it a little bit, how I do it, and make sure we do it this way. And now we need to do this. And so I'm demonstrating how to improve, not on something they've already done, but on a different one. So not on their bed that they've already done, they've done well, and I praise the work done, but maybe on my bed where I get them to come in and help and show them a couple of other things that they can improve on as well. Okay, family rules or classroom rules, we don't give rewards. So when you have family rules, they apply to all members of the family, or in the classroom situation, they apply to all classroom members. This includes parents and teachers. You want to make the rules what you want, not what you don't want. So when we sat down, when we moved back to Victoria, we sat down with the older two children. There was a lot of arguing between siblings, and we sat down, we made household rules. And the kids will automatically come out with, and I let them choose. They chose the rules. They chose the consequences for breaking the rules. So, but I guided that. So when they would come out with things, it would be, don't run in the house. Okay, so what should we be doing in the house? Okay, we need to be walking. All right, so rule number 1, walk in the house. Don't hit or kick or punch your brother or sister. Okay, that's right. You shouldn't be doing that, or we don't want you doing that. What do we want you doing? Play nicely, be kind to each other. So rule number 2 was play nicely, and I think rule number 3 was be kind to each other. I'll go find a picture, I'll take it and put it in the Facebook group. But you'll see in there everything, when there's a lot of don'ts that come out with the kids. Kids hear a lot of don't. So when you're doing it, make sure you're mindful of, okay, well, when they're hearing don't, like don't run in the house or don't run, all they hear is the last part, run in the house. They're not always registering the don't part. So that's why I always flip it around. What do I want? I want you to walk. Walking, please. Walk inside the house. And they hear that part. So, and the same with, I'm notorious for kids crossing roads. And I don't scream out, don't do that. It's always stop. I always scream stop, because I want them to stop before they cross the road and make sure they're looking, or if they're about to step out in front of something, which of course does happen. You want to be mindful just in everyday life of how many don'ts are you saying? What is it that you actually want from them? So one thing kids also don't pick up is when you're saying don't all the time, well, what is it that they want? Like they're telling me, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. What do you want? So make sure you're mindful as well. If you are saying a don't to a child, what is it that you want them to do? And then after you've given them the don't and you've realized you've given them a don't, flip it around and tell them, like, don't swing on that chair. So instead of saying that, put the 4 legs on the ground. Put the chair legs on the ground. Okay, so you have to be mindful of that. And it also takes away all the negativity of those don'ts. So flipping don'ts into do's. Kids don't require rewards for responsibility. So this is a big thing with us. They really do want to please you, and they appreciate that praise and the time together. And when it's a house rule or a house job, we don't give them a reward for that, because that's part of being in the classroom, or that's part of being in the family. So we don't give pocket money or anything like that for anything that's a household chore or job. And we would give it for extra things. So something like maybe washing the car, we wouldn't normally do. So if they put the effort in to wash the car, then we would give some money for that. Or certain things in the gardening, not mowing the lawn or anything like that, but certain aspects of the gardening, then we would probably give some reward for that, whether that's financial or food or time to play or those sorts of things. Okay. Number 7, providing routine and structure. Kids love structure. I'm an adult. I love routine and structure. It helps people feel safe and secure, and then they know what to do and what to expect. These things are really important with kids because everything feels out of their control. They've got parents and teachers and grandparents and the librarian and the daycare person and everybody. Everyone's telling them what to do all the time. They have no control. So the more structure and routine we can put into place, the more they feel safe and secure, and they know what to expect, which makes them feel like they have a little bit of control as well. So sometimes things, depending on the age of the child, you can have a timetable. You will have a set morning and night routine. You might have a set day classroom routine. You can give specific jobs that need to be done at specific times. And we have an order to do things in. So these routines also help reduce anxiety. So I feel a lot of adults can actually benefit from this concept as well. If you suffer from anxiety or stress and things like that, sometimes it might have to do with your routine and structure being out. So I would advise you to go and have a look at how your routine looks. Is there a way that you can set up a timetable that works, where everything flows for you? Or perhaps you look at it and you realize, hang on, I'm doing 3 hours of work at night after I finish work. Well, that's not working anymore. How do I restructure that? So those sorts of things can actually help reduce adult anxiety as well. Okay, number 8, teaching consequences. Children do need to learn that there are consequences for their actions, good consequences and bad consequences. But whatever action they take, the choice that they make, it has a consequence. So these are things that you shouldn't try and fix for your children. You don't want to be fixing these things. They need to learn them. And if their response, so for example, a big thing with children is they might leave something at home. So I would... my son would call me the first few times, and then eventually I said to him, you need to be responsible for your items. If you leave them at home, you've left them at home, and you need to find another way of dealing with it. So, by becoming responsible, they're learning to problem solve. So when he doesn't have his pencil case, let's say at school, he's got to learn how to problem solve. Do I go and ask the teacher for something? Do I ask to share with a friend? Is there a backup solution in the classroom I can use? He has to learn to problem solve that. And then the other thing that comes out of that as well is they learn that, I didn't really like not having my pencil case. I must make sure that I pack it the night before or the morning of, and have that as part of the routine to make sure that they've got the right equipment for the day. So this can be the same. So lunches, sports equipment, class equipment, they're not going to die if they don't have lunch one day, but they will learn that they need to pack their lunch. So forgetting things, incomplete tasks, not finishing homework, those sorts of things, everything has a consequence. They need to learn that their choice of doing or not doing or or forgetting has a consequence, and they'll survive. And, but what I want you to do as well is to make sure that you discuss what happened, how and why you should be improving that. So when he forgets, say, his pencil case that day when he comes home, what happened? You're not having a pencil case. How did you deal with that? How did you problem solve it? What things did you do? Next, how did you feel about that? Normally there's an embarrassment level with the kids. Okay, so what do you plan to do in future so that doesn't happen again? So it's always questions back to the child. I'm not telling them what to do. They can come up with the answers themselves. They're very clever, these little children. Okay, number 9, participating in sports. Sports are a huge thing. They're a great way to learn. Whether it's individual or team sport, each thing has a different way of teaching them responsibility. So remembering uniform, learning how to be collaborative, being part of a team and working as a team, sportsmanship, the failure and success, learning to improve over time through practice. All of these things are teaching a level of responsibility. Sports do it amazingly well. Team sports will encourage group work and your role as part of the team, and also it fosters that kindness and camaraderie and prepping other people up when they're feeling down about how they performed, those sorts of things. So team sports are really good for that. And individual sports can teach and encourage self-dependence, so being more independent and being more reliant on yourself and not having others to blame. So if you've got a child that maybe blames lots of other people, then it might be time to look at an individual activity where there are no other options. They can't blame anybody else. It's purely up to them and the effort that they put in. So I would recommend choosing the type of sport that helps your child grow. Our rule is that the kids need to do one individual sport and one group sport. I don't know if it's really our rule, it's my rule. My husband's very good about all of this. So, and I see it over time. I mean, our son is doing futsal and he did soccer before that. And he's just not very good, as most kids aren't when they start. And that's okay. He's a bit down the dumps. It's all right. We're working on sportsmanship and teamwork. And once you learn the skills, you've got to learn the skills as well and the teamwork. It'll all start to come together. And, now they're starting to win some matches, which is very exciting. But they've learnt all of those skills along the way. And they wouldn't have got that if they hadn't been working as a team and doing a team sport. Okay, number 10, get a job. So this is usually when they're a little bit older, but there's nothing to stop kids when they're younger if they're interested in earning a little bit of money. It's a huge way of becoming more responsible. So kids that want to get jobs are highly encouraged. If they're younger than the working age, which I don't think it's 9 months now, I think it is 15 now. And I know some businesses won't let you work there if you don't have the working with children's check and you have to be over 15, all the rest. But they can still do other things. So my stepdaughter, she's 11, and she's been selling, she makes stuff at home and she's been selling it at school. So, you know, she's got to learn the responsibility of making enough items, how to package them, learning the money and the finances, the profit and loss side of things. Am I actually making money, or am I just spending lunchtime working for free? Is the point to make money? What am I going to do with that afterwards? So there's that side of things. Younger kids, again, they can do odd jobs around the house, or you can go to your neighbours and they can do some jobs with them or for them. And obviously you would likely need to supervise a lot of the time with that. And once they get to working age, I highly encourage the kids to go and get an actual job, a paid job, where they're responsible to somebody else. They can also do volunteering. Volunteering is another way that they can get a job. And if they have a specific interest, then I would be trying to get them into volunteer work with that particular interest. So if they want to be a vet or they like animals, maybe you can get them some volunteer work at the animal rescue, or if there's an animal event on, maybe they can go and help with some of that. If you have a business, they might be interested in business, you can get them to help you doing some admin tasks or some sales tasks. I know that my dad did that as I was growing up. I did lots of odd jobs. I actually honed some rods and things. I can't remember. I just remember standing at the machine on a box. Yeah, but I got a little bit of money for that. And I painted one of the factory walls. I got a little bit of money for that, but I had to finish it. He wouldn't pay me. That wall was big and I was so tired and it was hard, and he refused. No way. You start a job, you finish a job, or you don't get paid for it. And so I finished the job. So just have a think, you know, if your kid's interested in earning some extra money or they have a specific interest, then you could look for some odd jobs, or you can go and get them some volunteer work or help them to find something like that. All right, and just keep in mind with those younger kids, you're also doing that is helping them spend time with you, and that's valuable. That time that you spend with those kids, they're learning from you, they're spending time with you. That's a special time to be together. So I don't have a summary sheet there, but so to summarize, I guess the 10 things are: starting early, getting them to help you, making sure you're modeling the right thing and finishing tasks, praise effort and improvement, so actions, not the person, watching your expectations, remember they're kids, and show them how to improve in a different setting, not using their own stuff. Family or class rules, don't reward them for those. Make sure they're do's, what you do want them to do rather than what you don't want them to do. Having a structure and routine, teaching consequences, putting them into sports, and getting a job. All right, if you've got any questions or anything else around that, you're not sure, or I've confused you, or you just want to make a comment, maybe there's something cool that your kid's doing that's helped them to learn responsibility, then jump into our Facebook community. You can join that off the website, or you can go to Grow Kids Minds in Facebook and join our group there and have a conversation. All right, thanks guys. I will see you next time. Can't find how to exit. Lost my, there it is. All right, guys, see you next time.